The night I yelled, "Stop!" across a black tie fundraiser, a little boy's fork froze midair, and 100 wealthy strangers went silent in the same breath. The dessert on his plate looked like a magazine cover, glossy and perfect, sprinkled with tiny golden seeds that caught the chandelier light like confetti. Pretty harmless, Instagram-worthy. And if Mason took one bite, it would have been an ambulance ride and a prayer. My name is Riley Hart. I'm a community nurse who runs allergy safety trainings after hours, which is a glamorous way of saying I spend a lot of nights in church basements, showing terrified parents how not to stab their own thumbs with an auto-injector. That night at Harbor and Hearth in Portland's Pearl District, I wasn't anyone important, just a guest at a table of school folks' hair, in a low ponytail, flats instead of heels, the kind of person rich rooms forget are there. 2 tables over sat Cole Whitaker. Yes, that Cole billboard Cole, with his 8-year-old son Mason and his fiancée Ava Lark, green dress, perfect posture, the type of smile that photographs well. I clocked the medical bracelet, the small backpack, the tense way Cole's fingers counted seconds. He pretended not to count, you know what I mean. Servers fanned out with desserts, like synchronized swimmers. Applause rose for the pledge. Total, the band slid into something smooth, and then the waiter set down a chocolate tart, dusted with toasted sesame. I stood before the thought, finished forming voice louder than my fear. Stop. The band flinched, heads turned, a couple of polite laughs, the kind that say, "Sit down, please." I pointed at the plate. Seeds. The boy has a sesame allergy. Don't let him take a bite. Mason's eyes got shiny fast, the way kids look when they think they messed up something they didn't. So I knelt to meet him and said, "You did nothing wrong, kiddo. We're just trading desserts, no big thing." I asked where the auto-injector was. Cole reached for the backpack like a reflex, unzipped it, found air, and the whole room shifted. "Ava," he said, "where is it?" "In my purse," she said, like reading a calendar reminder. "Not where it belongs," I said, and her smile thinned like glass under a candle. "We got lucky." The manager swept the tart like it was a live wire, comped the table, brought a plate of fruit on a tray like a crown. The adrenaline come-down hit all of us in different ways. My hands shook, Cole's voice went quiet in that way dads get when they're holding back a storm, and Ava looked annoyed that I'd made a scene. An hour later, we were at St. Bridget's ER. Because you always monitor after a near miss, and because fear spreads fast until someone draws the firebreak. I walked Cole through the action plan, early signs, timing, when to call 911, handed him a laminated card. I make for my classes. Watched him memorize it, like a map out of a burning house. Ava paced at the window on her phone saying, "Manage optics and draft a statement about the successful fundraiser." My face must have gone full weather report. Gray skies incoming. Because Cole saw it and asked the question most people in suits never ask. "Do you think I've been sloppy?" I told him the truth. I tell tired parents at midnight. This isn't about being sloppy. It's about being relentless. People get tired. They cut one corner. They want to feel normal for 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is all it takes. The door opened, and in swept June Whitaker Cole's mother, silver bob voice that could slice warm bread. She looked at Mason, looked at me, and said, "You're the nurse from those community classes who tells people not to be cute about peanuts. Good. You can stay." Yeah, that happened. People like to say the story started with that dessert. It didn't. It started 3 months earlier in a school nurse's office that smells like Band-Aids and hand sanitizer. But I didn't know that yet. On Monday, I walked into Fortress 1, Cole's cybersecurity company with glass walls and confident plants, because he'd left a message that said, "I need your help." The boardroom looked like TV 12 people, 2 kinds of smiles, 1 million opinions. The CFO, Noah Price, briefed them on the pre-IPO schedule. A board member asked how Friday's scare would hit valuation, and Ava slipped into gear like the world's smoothest PR transmission. "We minimize the allergy angle," she said, "emphasize the 2.4 million raised, avoid negligent CEO parents, prefer a positive narrative." Cole's jaw worked like he was biting back the ocean. Then she suggested sending Mason to a medical boarding school so Cole could focus on the IPO. The room went still in that way rooms do when the wrong thing gets said out loud. Cole stood voice low and even. "He's my son, not a liability." And then he turned to me in front of all those people and said, "Riley designed whatever it takes to keep him safe. At home, at school, at this company." First stop, St. Augustine Prep. Mrs. Kincaid, the school nurse, sat me in her tiny office lined with thank you cards and color-coded binders and said, "I've got something I wasn't sure who needed to see." She turned her monitor so I could read an email from 3 months back from Ava's address language crisp enough to pass a casual scan. "After consultation with Mason's allergist, severity appears overstated. Please change records to sensitivity rather than allergy. Auto-injector should be available, not required. Gradual exposure recommended." That is how kids die while everyone insists they were being reasonable. Mrs. Kincaid changed nothing. She documented every call, every polite suggestion that protocols were excessive for one child, kept extra injectors, warned teachers, waited for someone else to see the pattern. I called Cole from the parking lot. He brought Noah. Cyber guys don't do vibes, they do logs. Noah pulled access trails from the family benefits portal and Mason's medical accounts. Administrative credentials had been used to edit severity fields, reorder emergency contacts, even add a bogus note that Mason tolerated Trace Sesame 2 weeks earlier. There were encrypted emails to a competitor's PR firm, with Fortress 1 launch, talking points, plus law firm searches about step-parent authority when a biological parent is deemed anxious. I felt sick. Cole looked like a man waking up in a room full of mirrors he didn't like. He confronted Ava that night in his Riverview apartment. I wasn't there, but I know the rhythm because I've heard it 100 times. He asked why the injector wasn't in the backpack. She said she didn't want Mason defined by a bag. He asked about the school email. She called it reframing. He asked about the leaks. She said he was overreacting. Then he said the sentence that draws the line you can't cross. "Who gave you the right to play doctor with my son?" She had no answer worth keeping. 2 days later was the Aegis Mesh product launch, Fortress 1's big swing. The press smelled blood, investors checked their phones, and Cole walked on stage without notes. "My son lives with a life-threatening allergy," he said, voice steady, no spin on Friday. "He almost ate a dessert that could have killed him because someone close to our family valued optics over safety." Gasps, then a silence that rang. Someone edited medical records to minimize his risk, attempted to change school protocols, leaked company strategy. That person will face legal consequences, and they will not share a room with my child again. The room split down the middle, half hungry for a scandal, half remembering their own kids, then a clap from the back, then 3, then a scattered applause that sounded like people deciding to be human. Lawyers moved fast. Detectives, too. Ava was charged with falsifying medical records and unauthorized access. In court, I said, "What I say in basements, the job isn't perfection, it's protection. Every shortcut is a step toward an ICU bed. Punish what she did, but if mercy can make us safer, choose it." The judge gave probation, a restraining order, 400 hours of community service at an allergy nonprofit. Some called it soft, some called it right. I'm still deciding on some days. At Fortress 1, Cole rebuilt around trust instead of charm. I helped write family safety policies that people actually use. Front desk asks about allergens for every event. Kid-safe snack zones are real tables, not slogans. HR builds quiet plans without making anyone feel like a problem. Employees started disclosing what they usually hide: asthma, diabetes, shellfish, and the building somehow felt kinder. And Mason, he practiced with the trainer pen until he could do it eyes closed, learned to read labels, learned to say no without apologizing. One day he said, "I can be brave and careful at the same time, right?" Buddy, that's the whole trick. We had a Saturday at Tanner Springs Park that felt like a door opening. Mason's kite found the wind. Cole sat beside me without performing, thanked me for teaching him the difference between controlling and prepared. I told him he taught me that sometimes the person no one sees still gets to change the ending. We both laughed and let the quiet do the rest. Maybe you hear romance in that, maybe you're not wrong, but we're taking our time because the stake is a kid's heart, not a headline. So here's the part people fight me on. I don't think Ava woke up to be a villain. I think she believed she was saving a boy from limitations, believed a cleaner narrative could make real life safer, believed the angle was the truth. Do I forgive her? Some days I try, some days I picture that email, and my jaw locks. Justice isn't a feeling, it's a choice you keep making. If you were the judge, would you have sent her to prison, or kept the community service I argued for? Have you watched image outrank safety at work, at school, at your own table? Where do you draw the line between overprotective and responsible, and who gets to decide? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me if you've lived a version of this: the wedding dessert mistake, the cafeteria slip, the friend who meant well and almost sent you to the ER. Call out the double standards, shout out the quiet heroes, and if this hit a nerve, hit like, subscribe, and tell the truth. We usually whisper, because the only way any of us gets safer is by saying it out loud.